Hi, my name is Liz. I am here today to share some meaningful learning experiences I had with one of the courses I actually enrolled at edX.org, sponsored by Harvard University, entitled Leaders of Learning, wherein we were tasked to create a proposal for a learning design, whether it will be for a digital platform or a physical learning space. So this is helpful for those who are teachers and educators or who are in the educational sectors. What is it all about? Let me tell you something first about the Leaders of Learning that is accessible via edX.org. So basically, you can access it for free. If you chose to enroll for free or access the content via free audit track, there is a session available that started yesterday, April 9. So you would have free access from April 9 up to June 18 of this year. While if you later on decided to get a digital certificate from Harvard University on the short programs about Leaders of Learning, after passing the required ratings and homeworks and submitting all the challenges and reflections they would ask, or you would find it on the material itself, then you can choose to upgrade for a verified ones that is only for $139, and you get to have access with the material unlimited, so you can always open it. And you can pay it via PayPal. So what is this all about? If you will be studying 2 to 4 hours per week, so approximately, you will finish the course material in just 10 weeks. But if you will be studying more than 4 hours a week, then you can definitely finish it in a month or two. Well, this is what I have learned, and I find it meaningful to share. This is where I get my satisfaction from, learning things, and at the end of the day, I have something to share that can somehow uplift others whom I think need the information. I have learned that there are 4 different modes of learning framework, and along the horizontal axis we have hierarchical to distributed, and along the vertical axis we have individual to collective. And what is it all about? Let me give you some definitions that actually transpired during the lecture video. When we say hierarchical, it means that the knowledge is organized into streams of learning, and it follows a particular sequence of well-defined blocks of knowledge. This is the learning framework that school follows. While the distributed means that the knowledge has multiple uses to multiple people. The value of knowledge is determined by its use and by the opportunities that people have access to it, wherein the learners are the ones making the primary choices of what has value, what's interesting, and what needs to be learned. When we say individual, we mean that the primary unit of learning is the single person. The learning occurs as an individual activity, and it only happens when individuals are engaged in some kind of direct learning, while collective means that learning is primarily a social activity, that is, people relate to each other around things they have common interest in, and it is that relationship that aids learning. But most people migrate between different parts of the framework. That's why, as I've said, this is nothing new. You might be applying this already. It's just that you don't know the proper terminologies, or what is it called. That ended up, we have 4 quadrants. We have hierarchical individual, hierarchical collective, and at the same time we also have distributed individual, that's the one I picked, and distributed collective. So let's go with design challenge 2, which is a lot meaningful. We were tasked to briefly describe your theory of learning and then present the design of your ideal learning environment. Be sure to consider the 5 human factors as you develop your design. We were tasked to start with the theory of learning by completing the sentence, people learns best when. Alright, and then number 2 is then imagine what is the physical or digital space wherein you would like to lead this type of learning. I actually crafted this learning design sometime in October last year, and feel that it will be easy to listen if I read it aloud. So here's my answer. The more you learn, the broader the knowledge that you can share with others. This is another meaningful learning experience for me, which is worth it because it challenged me to the very core to think, analyze, study, and reflect. And I also would like to send my warmest thanks to sponsoring these courses, Harvard University and via edX.org, for making this course available to the world for free, giving us best learning resources taught by best teachers from the best universities as a whole, or edX.org. Well, what is my theory of learning? Here's my theory of learning that I actually wrote. People learns best when they learn by doing. We all know that it is effective to study and learn things if we do it in practice, right? So my theory of learning is something that will foster in the minds of my students on how to become lifelong learners. As we all know, as learning is a never-ending process. We get to learn a lot of things, whether we're a student or we are already on a regular job. And what is the most appropriate approach in this time of pandemic? I find it effective and applicable is the active learning theory. And what is it all about? When we say active learning, it is based on a theory called constructivism. So you are familiar with that one. Constructivism emphasizes the fact that learners construct or build their own understanding. Learners develop their existing knowledge and understanding in order to achieve deeper levels of understanding. This means that learners are more able to analyze, evaluate, and synthesize ideas, thus achieving the higher order skills of Bloom's taxonomy. We follow that one on our learning form. Active learning encourages learners to have active engagement with the available learning resources and reinforce retention. When we say active engagement, it may include interactive digital media, that's what I proposed last time, in learning content, gamification, quizzes, and exercises, which are all elements in an e-learning environment that adhere to the active learning theory. Now, when we say active learning theory, this is not just only applicable to digital learning space, but also in the physical classroom. It's just your creativity on how to utilize this theory and apply it into your actual teaching style. The second question is my answer for the second question. What is my ideal learning space wherein I can lead this type of teaching leadership approach? My ideal learning space wherein I can lead this type of teaching leadership approach is in a digital space. I believe we are all familiar with the digital learning environment ever since the pandemic crisis has started, right? We can use active learning theory with a focus on students' learning and how they can exercise control over their learning outside the classroom. Now, this kind of approach actually would lump me into the distributed individual learning mode quadrant. Let me present my distributed individual modes of learning design. In the active learning process, our focus is on the students' learning. Students are encouraged to think hard rather than just receive information from the teacher. Research shows us that it is not possible to transmit understanding to students by simply telling them what they need to know. Instead, teachers need to make sure that they challenge their students' thinking. And with an active learning approach, students play an important part in their own learning process. They build their knowledge and understanding in response to opportunities provided by the teacher. So I want to build and lead in a digital learning platform, which is designed based on three things: based on active learning principles, based on human-centered design with personal devices that enriches learning. In my distributed individual learning environment design, students can learn anytime without worrying of the class schedule. There is a wide range of activities that are grouped into smaller parts so that students may have the option to choose which are most suitable to him or her with the same skill set target. Like, certain students want to learn math through games. Then there must be quizzes that are in the form of interactive games. When we say interactive, there must be timely feedback and a brief explanation for correct answers. There are websites everywhere online that can create such that shortly saying that creating of those interactive content media quizzes is not an issue because we have a lot of free online platforms nowadays. We just need skilled teachers with creativity who are willing to invest their time experimenting with the latest technology, and if they don't know how to, they may wish to enroll in some of the trainings, seminars, or workshops that will equip them with all the necessary walkthroughs. So last time I was able to avail free workshops on how to create a learning platform, so that is actually helpful to me. Organizational measurements internally set with individual engagement as a key standard would actually define the success of my approach. We only need to remember important elements. Here are the learners, their potentials, and the kind of learning that was going on in a virtual classroom. Although my design focuses on the digital space, the teaching approach must be flexible enough to adapt to the ever-changing society. Like in a digital space, like that of online learning, students learn more than they do in traditional classes. Retentions are higher as they can play the learning materials like the videos many times as they like on whichever devices they have available at home. Now, when we say, speaking of learning content uploaded online, it must be playable on smartphones, laptop, Mac, or PC, so it can reach everyone that has internet and has devices as much as possible. Learning activities should encourage intellectual critical thinking and curiosity. Assessment tasks, which stimulates learning through experience, effective feedback, and an interactive environment for teachers and students. While the idea of my online learning might revolutionize higher education by lowering the cost of high quality learning opportunities for students with limited access to traditional education, with the integration of technology, still a variety of activities must come in handy for those who can't make it online. That's why here in the Philippines we are implementing the blended learning approach, wherein teachers are encouraged to conduct classes over the air, like on radio and TV programs, so we can reach those who don't have access to internet and who don't have gadgets, and we were providing free tablets for them. Adequate personal interaction between students and teachers, as well as among students, must be available for sharing of ideas, and additional support is also a must as it is necessary, such as but not limited to Facebook groups and community and the like. Learning resources must be available for both radio and television for those learners who live in isolated areas wherein the internet is out of reach. While lecturing remains the predominant mode of instruction in undergraduate education. Now, most serious students of teaching and learning in higher education now recognize that this mode of instruction and its accompanying conception of learning have serious limitations. We all know that, many of which are related to student engagement. For radio and television mode, a learner must have the option to message or call the teacher for questions and for necessary support needed, while the rest of those online has a chat box support to leave a message. While there is a lot of evidence that shows that students retain information better when they are able to work actively, that's why we are encouraging to implement the active learning approach. To retain information better when they are able to work actively with the material, that they are trying to master than when they were just merely trying to passively absorb it. And to make sure that students are actively engaged with the learning resources online, this is one of the questions raised. We can just upload learning content, e-learning assessments, but how do we know that students are still watching? That's why we can use tons. I suggest to use tons of interactive content that supports uploading of video lessons to YouTube that you have recorded, wherein a teacher, educator can actually embed interactive questions like in the Edpuzzle. In the Edpuzzle learning platform, you can save your video with pop-up message, pop-up quiz that in order for the student to continue watching the video, they must answer the questions that pop up on the screen. For that, it becomes interactive, so you would know that the students are still watching because they can't proceed to the end of the video without answering the questions. Like we are engaging them to the offline learning. Video gets interrupted by brief quizzes designed to verify that students were still watching. Active learning through gamification. E-learning quizzes can be created in many different ways on many different websites to choose from nowadays. That turns additional boring look of quizzes into an interesting fun game. That's why in the past I have introduced or shared video about the gameful learning approach, because we can make the teaching and learning a lot meaningful and engaging if we actually apply those knowledge, those quizzes, activities in a form of games, so you can engage majority of the learners to participate with the games. But our purpose there for the gameful learning is not to teach them the games or the mechanics of the games, always part, but the purpose of that is to get the attention of your students or your learners to participate and enjoy what they are learning. Active learning through gamification. E-learning quizzes can be created in many different ways and many different websites to choose from that turns additional boring look quizzes into an interesting fun game. Similarly, for those open-ended activities that students are required to type in the answers like essays and mathematical expressions must be addressed by technology. Same goes to activities that further enhance their learned concepts into real-life applications by having the options to upload their work. That's what this online platform do. They have the options to upload or submit their work. Assessments for learning. Our notion of assessment is very important for us to gauge what our learners have learned so far. Our notion of assessment bound up with the ideas regarding examinations, accreditation, perhaps accountability. However, for some time now, there has been an ongoing debate about it. I think we should adopt, this is a personal opinion, I think we should adopt Cambridge University's assessment of e-learning, which target at assessing students, understanding throughout teaching, helping students to understand what stage they are at, how they might improve, and this AFL must be able to provide feedback for improving learning. I'll tell you more about it. Our goal is geared towards providing students with skills and strategies for taking the next steps higher in their learning. That involves sharing learning goals with pupils, develop questioning techniques which engage higher levels of reasoning and dialogue, establish effective group work, so we still encourage group activity. Groups should be credited for each member of the group being able to adequately give and explain the correct answer. In creating such an objective, group activities encourage stronger students to teach the weaker ones, which is a stretching task in itself and maintains ownership of the learning. Group discussions must be encouraged with their peers. There are some students who often communicate better with their peers than with their teachers. That's why we have the peer tutorial. Students must be challenged to defend, review, modify their ideas to their peers. It encourages reflection and metacognition. Podcasting. With the explosion of MP3 player, a tool for distributing audio content, is now in the snap of the fingers. Learning content must have an audio version readily disseminated online, such as video lectures, songs, historical speeches, classroom recordings, field recordings, study support, or playing audio content, whatever the source for studying. Lastly, learning content can be accessed via smartphones, Mac or PC, and has a media content that has an option for download for offline studying. This is what I like the most. You have the options to download the video lectures that you can watch anytime of the day. And at the end of the day, I want my digital learning space to use active learning theory applied and focused in leading the distributed individual learning environment be designed to help an individual develop their skills to better prepare them in their own battle in the future. Thank you so much for watching. If you find it helpful, you can let me know, and if you have questions, as long as I'm available, just feel free to ask. Thank you so much and have a great day. I hope you find the essence of this information, and you can go to the website HarvardX.org and search for Leaders of Learning, sponsored by Harvard University, and explore the content. Thank you. Have a great day.